Okay, for those joining this live stream, we are talking about the Wolfram Function Repository, which is something which kind of doesn't exist yet, but will soon, but kind of does exist. And let's take a look here. Is test function repository, is that the right place to be looking? Or is it not the test server?
None of this is web stuff. It's all notebook based.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I need to install this packlet. I need to basically run this cell, correct?
Yes, in desktop.
In desktop, yeah. You might want to download that.
Well, I don't need to. I just go ahead and run this.
Sure.
Okay. Now, what am I looking at here? So this is...
We put in a lot of sort of style changes to like the messages and warnings and button styles since last time. And we also wanted to review the content of those, which is the things further down on the agenda for reviewing the content. But if you want one of these that you can actually use to poke around, that's why you needed the packlet installed.
I see. Okay. Well, so should I look at this or should I just look at the content stuff?
I think it'd be useful to just go ahead and look at the content further down. But
okay, well, let's just do a tour of the thing here. So open sample. Okay. How much of the? I mean, it will be useful in the sample to maybe show some things with subscripts and superscripts here.
Good idea. We can look, now we have a lot more things to choose from. We can choose a more complex one that shows all the features.
And also this isn't even right, this thing here. That's in the wrong font. Right. That's not the right font there. Correct?
Right. Is it not showing up as a link? Sorry to tell resume exactly what.
Well, no, it's the wrong font. It's a text font.
Okay.
Shouldn't be a text font. For some reason. Right? It's not the same as that font there. It should be. Right?
Yeah, we'll look into it.
Right. Yep.
No, but you understand, right? It's wrong. And I don't understand how it managed to be wrong given that it's an inline cell. And one would think the inline cell should have correctly formatted as code.
Right. I think this is sort of an older one. It should be the same as the up to that's within it, right?
But that's because up to is a system function and position largest is not.
Right. It shouldn't be a link, but it should be the same font.
I see.
Yeah. Okay. Now, if this is a sample, why doesn't it have everything in it?
Yeah, like I said, we could probably go through and find one that's more complete now. It's a good idea. This was like the 8th thing we put in, and it was good at the time.
Okay.
So now that we have hundreds to choose from, we can choose a better one.
We could also do a sample that is all of the elements instead of an exact sample of an existing.
I think that wouldn't be a bad idea. Yeah, I agree with that.
A Franken sample.
Yes, I think that's a good idea. I think it's a good idea because otherwise people will think that, yeah.
Yeah, we can do that.
Well, I think we want them to at least belong together. So somebody could hit preview or deploy or whatever just to see how that stuff ends up in a resource function.
All right, okay. I retract my Frankenism. Try and find a reasonable, uniform example. And I don't see any reason why. I mean, but what would happen if they submitted it? We just reject it.
It'll give an error.
Okay.
I think if they just did like a find and replace on the name and change it to position largest 2, it would probably work. But then we would reject it when we reviewed it.
Okay, what is this and why is it? This seems to have an iframe in it.
It is an iframe. Once embedded notebooks is on production, we are going to use this, use that technology here. So,
which is Wednesday, right?
I'm not going to make promises for cloud releases.
Well, it's supposed to be Wednesday, but
Yes.
assuming it is Wednesday, then you guys will quickly, get this done so that it's ready when we have to announce it.
Yeah, we didn't care too much about formatting at this point because we knew that we wanted to use that technology for this.
What does this mean? Why is that true?
Well, we don't want the code in a function resource to be doing get of a user's cloud object. They might modify.
No, we don't.
Right?
But they could do. I mean, they can get things from our repositories. We should say that there's no problem with it getting stuff from repositories.
Right. We could break that down further.
Okay.
Be more specific.
Because somebody may need code or a neural net or something like this. I think we should be clear that it can't get it from an external resource that is not a standard Wolfram repository. Get what I'm saying?
Unless it's specifically designed to connect to some service. Like
yes,
there's that.
Also say that.
Yeah.
But that would be like retrieving content, not retrieving the function definition.
Yeah, no external code sources. Yeah, but we should have an exception there for either function repository itself or other repositories.
Right.
This you should explain.
Can we reword that?
You should explain that a little bit more.
Yep.
Okay.
And this, we should, for goodness sake, make those links so people know what to do here.
Like I said, the formatting.
This is wrong. Just this needs to be a link to that menu item documentation.
Right. I think we are planning to sort of reformat everything here once we're doing the embed notebooks. This is just to get some sort of content up there that's makes good sense.
All right. Okay. But this particular thing, we should explain, and I think Roger has that. What is in a scope section? Wait. Why doesn't this have other sections here?
When it builds it, because this is a sample where the person didn't put anything in scope. If they put something in, it would be there.
No, I mean in other stuff, but I mean okay.
If you look in the uncompleted one, that might function.
Yeah, okay. So listen. We need for every one of those sections, we need a description, which I believe Roger has.
Right. Look at in the I button next to examples. Right there. There's at least a one-liner. That's pretty decent.
Okay, well, that seems sensible.
Right. We could copy that over into the style guidelines notebook as well.
I think we should also let's see. Yeah, I mean, we should probably also have eyes next to each of these sections and maybe amplify a little bit.
Yeah, right now we don't have anything technically preventing people from just using their own subsection headings. Right?
But we don't want that. We can
reject them on review, sure.
Yeah, we should reject them immediately. The pre-flight should only allow these. We should also make it clear you don't have to fill in something. Look, the number one thing we should make clear is that people should make this look like the way it works for system functions. And another thing is, not every one of these sections, other than basic examples, has to be there. Right?
Right.
So we should say most basic function usage paren required. We also should make it very clear. What is this? What is this nonsense? Insert page break? No, that's not correct.
Yeah,
that's not correct.
We have a
Okay, so get it right, please. Yeah, get that right.
That was before we added the tools toolbar.
Okay, well, so get that right. Okay, we're gonna do a content review in a few minutes then, I think. But I'm just looking through here. So tools. Why are there double borders around this thing? See the little extra bordery things?
I'm not sure about that. I only see that on Mac, and I'm not sure what's causing that.
Okay.
I'll look into it then.
Well, can we? Okay. I mean, I think these are a little bit light looking. I mean, they're okay. It's okay. It's all right. Okay. Okay, that's all good. Okay. Okay, there's a question from Sander on the live stream. His function in shuffle can be found using. So are we doing the autocompletes now? So are we doing?
Yes.
That's nice.
Right. It might take they're only updated at kernel restart. So, but I think that's fine.
That's just fine.
Yeah.
So Sander says his in shuffle. I'm not seeing his in shuffle here. On kernel restart, you said?
Yes.
Is that left over from the creation? If he had created and registered a copy.
That's true. He might have it. He might have it from when he created it. It could, when registering appends it to the list of autocompletes as well.
I see. So he might have it locally, but it's not actually globally deployed.
Right.
Could be, yeah.
We did approve in shuffle, but we didn't fully publish it because of some graphics issues on the.
So that makes sense. Yeah.
Well, did we get back to Sander? Yeah. What's our process for that? We're supposed to have a process.
So the process is we provisionally approve because we are fine with the function and we fix it soon enough.
Right.
Yeah, but do we get back to the author because they're going to get confused if their thing is not showing up?
Right. I'm guessing that Sander just checked and found that it existed. Right now the code exists, but the web page isn't existing in public forum. I think this was on Friday afternoon, and we just haven't gone back to fix the web page.
Okay, but the main point is that Sander didn't hear from you guys.
Right. Well, he would have started as soon as we fix the web page rendering and make the web page public. It would send out the notification.
No, I understand that, but okay.
So are you saying when we provisionally approve something, we should also get back to them?
Absolutely, of course, and tell them why it isn't fully approved.
But the thing is,
if it's something that they need to do, of course we do that. But this was
doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We got to show that we're actually doing something, and that didn't just fall off the edge of the earth.
Well, see, here's the thing. As far as Saunders knows, the real problem is just that he somehow discovered it through this code completion mechanism.
I don't care.
Otherwise, he would just assume it's still in the queue. I mean, from his point of view, it is still.
But the more we can say that something happened, the better off we are.
True. This is a situation where we didn't, just to correct you, Sushma, we didn't provisionally approve it because we only discovered the shingle issue after we approved it. So maybe there's.
Oh, well, that's even yet another thing, because he probably got a notice saying it was approved and then didn't show up.
Exactly. So that might be something.
Did that happen or did that not happen?
I don't think he would have. Unless.
The notice should go out when it's actually published. Not just,
yes. Right.
Okay, but let me make a comment. The more stuff we send out telling people what's happening to people's submissions, the better it is. So if we approved it, but it isn't yet published for some reason, we say it's approved, it will be published shortly. Right? Just transparency. Okay? And if something goes wrong, then we got multiple eyes watching it. So the author will also notice. If we said, "Oh, it's going to go out shortly," and then it doesn't, then they'll complain, and that's good.
Yeah, that's true.
Okay. Cool. I have to read the documentation to know what this does. Let's see it. Does that actually
like
work?
A deck of cards? So,
oh, okay.
You think about it. Takes the first half and the second half, and so that page won't exist yet. And that's right.
I see.
So yeah,
actually, hold on.
The 404 page fails too.
Yet another problem, right? What is this?
That's a long-standing issue with the 404. Bradley, do you know more about the status of making that work? It's because we're on the resources subdomain, so it's trying to grab cloud 404 page.
Yeah, there's two issues there. We are not able to deploy our own 404 page. So we've been waiting for that to be fixed, but also the lack of styling is a separate issue. We might be able to fix the lack of styling soon, but we definitely need cloud investment to fix the deploying our own 404.
Why do we need? I mean, it wouldn't be terrible to have okay, that worked.
Right. If you open up the details and options,
is that the right title to use for this?
I think it's good. Could be dash instead of parens. There's also an example that we're trying to distinguish it from, and a definition that we're trying to distinguish it from.
Why don't we say? I mean, what does it say when you? We don't want to say Wolfram Function Repository documentation. Maybe not.
Well, there is documentation for the Wolfram Function Repository, so we might want to not reuse the specific term.
Right. Okay.
Right. So the specific thing that this tripped up on is in the details and options. There's images that weren't formatted in the way we anticipated, and so we have to get that working on the web side of things, and then then it'll work.
It would be. It's good to let people put in images for these things.
Yeah, and we've added support for images, but I think some box. It's a graphics object.
And what's this? This looks like a weird piece of formatting as well.
Oh yeah, we should probably fix that.
That shouldn't be allowed.
The margins on those tables are all wrong.
Well, yeah, but what is that table? Is that a one column?
No, it's not a table.
Those are sub-items, I think.
Sub-item, I guess. Yeah.
But that's not. Do we allow sub-item, or should we turn it into a one-column table?
That's not what Sonder actually submitted, though. He or she, I think it's a he, had submitted like a regular item cell, and then I think a couple of text cells below it. But when it got scraped, it got turned into a sub-item for some reason.
Okay, well, look, we have a very standardized format. This is clearly not completely conforming.
Right.
We need to figure out how we're going to extend it, and we need to bounce back things that don't conform.
Yeah, our auto formatting tools have very much been centered on making the web pages, and then getting after they're processed, getting.
Well, so if the web pages look fine, I'm probably okay. But the whole point is we don't have items and sub items in sort of our documentation structure. They're just not a thing that we support. So we have to decide what to turn them into so that they're consistent with other stuff in documentation. They could turn into a one-column table perfectly well.
Right. And I think, like I said, for when we're making it so that they are handled well on the website of things.
I understand that, but I'm going to say this again. Okay, we need to make sure that the format here is consistent with the format that we use for all documentation. So no weird extra cell types. Right? They've all got to be mapped into something that we already understand.
Yeah, that's an ongoing project. We're going to be making those sorts of changes for a while, I think.
Fair enough. These are nice diagrams. Maybe there should be a diagram maker that, maybe there should be something that allows you to spec a diagram like this. That would be cool. Okay. All right. Now, let's see. Where were we? We were back over here, and we were going to go to your agenda again.
Right. So the first one, we've pulled out a few common errors or warnings so that you can look at the comment, because there's
but so can I see? Hold on a second. What does the administration side of this now look like?
It'd probably be better to review that in a different meeting.
Okay.
Yeah, there's a lot of pieces.
That's the same Packlet install thing. That second blob you can delete. You've already done that.
Okay, fine. Okay, question. Let's just talk about processes for that. So you have an internal management interface, yes?
Yes.
Is it in notebooks?
Yes.
Okay. And that involves internal comments and things, ones that get sent to other people.
That will be debuting shortly. The commenting, the in notebook correspondence tools are, the one main piece of it is in testing. The other main piece will be in testing once the first one is through, if that makes sense.
Okay. Now, one question with these things, presumably we are eventually intending these to also be usable in private clouds. This tool set.
Sure. Yeah.
Right? So we will presumably have, how will we be deploying that? Is that tool set, it's itself a function repository set of tools, or what is it? How does it, what does it?
It's a Packlet. If and when we have a Packlet repository, it could be a Packlet in there.
It's not when we have the Packlet repository.
Right.
But I mean, how do we expect to deploy this? So then people would load that in, and then they have a whole world of having an administration interface. Is that correct?
Right. I mean, and then additionally, there's the step of actually deploying a resource system into their private cloud, which could be the same Packlet or a different Packlet.
Right. I mean, I think the other thing that we should think about at some point is community-based resource systems. And, I just don't know. It depends on the evolution of all of this and whether they end up being specialized pieces and so on. But I think it's something that we should anticipate could make sense.
Like something with a Git flow for controlling the content.
Maybe.
Is that what you're thinking? Okay.
No, I'm thinking like the Stack Exchange folk could run one of these, or our that type of thing. I don't know whether it's a good idea, because hopefully our one works well enough that people will just use it. But there may be specialized pieces that we're not going to cover very well. I mean, it may be that I don't know. Or I could imagine a specialized one where somebody wants to build one of these, but it is specifically for functions to generate homework or something.
Right.
And they're going to curate it, and it's going to be, hundreds and hundreds of functions to generate very specific types of homework exercises. Okay, let's go through this. All right. Now, what are you trying to show me?
So each one of these is just one thing that we think is a common either warning or suggestion. So this is just to sort of review the actual content of those warnings for some that we selected. So the expert.
Why aren't we putting auto?
It's at the top now. It's at the top now.
It is. Okay.
Screenshots are a bit old. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. What's the right-hand side? I see what happened in that case. Looks magnificent.
It automatically linked the function names.
I could see that. That's part of what made it magnificent. It's a little bit of a pity that those brackets end up being oversized. I don't know why that's happening. That should probably be looked into. Okay, get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Something is confused with the hyperlinks that's causing them to expand. And you, okay, now, but there could be things with commas in them that are keywords, but that's very rare.
Then you just say dismiss or ignore it.
Yeah, okay, fine. Okay. What's the arrow going to here? By the way, somebody's got a bunch of background hissing noise.
So those ones don't have an autofix, so it's just the don't show this again or dismiss this. So there's no like autofix.
I understand. Okay. What do we mean invalid link? Oh, I see. This is the link section.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. Yep. Okay. Magnificent. Yeah. Are you dealing with putting colons at the end of lines and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I think that's the example after this one.
Well, don't we automatically do this for people? Why the heck don't we just do that automatically? If they put in 3 dots, we turn it into the right thing.
Well, it's specifically set up so it's not going to automatically rewrite things just in case it's something they actually want. So it'll automatically do it if you use that option from the menu, but you know, somebody might have a function that actually does that, and they're showing an example that we wouldn't want to ruin their example.
But it's only going to do this in the usage section, right?
If I remember correctly, it also check example text.
Okay,
Details
but
and options, I'm sure too.
Fine. Yeah, details and options would have this also. Okay, but I mean, I think it should be more insistent here. And possibly should just fix it automatically. Well, how much are we fixing automatically, and how much do we insist the source page?
It's mostly just saying it found something, and you have the option of having it fixed automatically.
I understand. I would argue that in this usage section, we should escalate this to be something that is really an orange level alert, so to speak.
Oh, yeah. So increase.
Because you really need to fix.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, because I think it would be extremely rare that somebody would actually deliberately want the 3 periods.
Right. Okay. When would they ever not appear with a colon?
It's a silly example, but on birdsay, there's one that ends in a question mark. But in general, I think almost always.
All right, that's fine. Then leave this. Okay. Yeah, it's all good. I think that's a yellow alert or whatever it is. Right? We just don't want that inconsistency. It's silly to have it. There's no excuse for having it. Let's just force it.
Okay.
Is the word set right here?
Provided.
Is this okay? I don't know. I mean, this is okay, but that's all right. Everybody who's writing this knows. Okay. What does that mean?
So if something's undocumented, but it does exist, we wouldn't be able to put a link to it on like a shingle page.
Right. But I don't think that boy. I think this is yeah, I mean the undocumented system symbols are just something we want to pretend don't exist.
Okay. Well,
I think we should say
well, no one would see this message unless they knew about the symbol. And
all right, okay, fine. I really think this is very, very, very rare to not start with a capital letter. I think I would up the severity of this one again.
okay.
Can imagine a French proper name that's like de something, you know.
Yeah, yes, I can imagine stuff like that too. I assume you've got a thing that checks for the period at the end.
It's not implemented yet, but I have it coming.
Okay. Okay. What's the difference between these? I don't understand.
The top line and the bottom line. The
So
actual
this
usage pattern. The
second
first one
one
is the actual usage pattern. The second one is the little blurb, the sentence.
Oh, I see, but which didn't happen. This is a fake example because there isn't, in fact, a
First and second. It sees that first and second are variables, and that they're not variables.
Wow.
And this one has a pretty high chance of having false positives. So that's one of the reasons why we have the don't show again for this cell.
Right. First could easily be an adjective.
Hold on. Let's think about this one. This one is a little trickier. Why don't we say arguments are not formatted in italics, etc.? Well, what do we call it at the top in the
template input? Arguments are not templated.
Are not formatted as template input or something. Are not formatted as paren italic template input.
This will actually also identify if somebody used italics and not template input, which we want them to fix.
Sorry, say that again. Excuse me. Could you repeat that?
I was avoiding using the word italics in this message because, like, formatting as italics is wrong in this case for arguments, because I would end up with the wrong font.
I see. Well, maybe arguments are not formatted as template input.
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Okay. Look, you either got to state these messages as a fact of what isn't there. The should isn't really a message. Are we using should, or are we just stating what's there?
Right.
Arguments. Strings, or I mean, what could we say? Something like let's see. I mean, are we able to put in actual things? Like
I can pass parameters.
Yeah, okay. First and second, well, are not. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Used in the template, in the function template. Argument names used in the function template are not formatted as template input in the description.
Yeah, and after function template, it could be paren, first comma, second, close paren.
Well, here it would be better. Argument names, first comma, second.
And that's more robust if there's 1 or 5 of them,
Yeah.
just doing it that way.
Okay, that's what I would suggest. Shall I send this to you, Rick?
Yeah.
I have it written down.
I'll send it to Rick anyway.
Sounds good.
Okay. Let me see. Some comments on our live stream. Sandra wanting to know, are there font size rules for the graphics? That is a good question. We should give those. We should mention graphics. We should probably check the font sizes. I mean, arguably, those graphics have to go through some human review.
Well, everything goes through human review.
Fair enough, but okay. Let's give guidelines for the font sizes.
Right.
Certainly know them because we've been doing it for our own documentation for eons.
Right. Yeah. First, we need to support as much as we can. I mean, we can give guidelines, but we also need to improve the actual tools so that we support more things.
Fair enough.
The stuff Sandra gave us, it should work, but it's just
right. Sanders nicely saying that he wants to say he really likes the idea of the function repository. Very good. He's contributed 10 to 15 functions, more to come. Excellent. Excellent. Are there rules for numbered arguments? Oh, I see. That is a good question. We certainly have some style guidelines for that. Whether you say thing 1, thing 2, comma, dot, dot, dot. We should mention that.
The next screenshot is relevant to that as well, I think.
Okay. Okay. Question from Mohammed. After downloading function repository function, does it create a local copy of its documentation? I don't know the answer to that. What's the answer?
It creates a local copy of all the metadata that's used to build the documentation.
But so
the documentation notebook itself is created on demand, but it's created from local stuff.
But so right now, for people to get documentation, they are taken to the web. Is that correct? We don't have
the canonical documentation is on the web. We have that notebook that you looked at earlier for the
right, which in principle, if people want it, and I'd be interested to know if there's a use case for this, if people want it, those things could then be resident locally. I mean, like, typical example is somebody downloads a bunch of functions from the function repository. They go in a cave, they go on a plane without Wi-Fi, and they want to keep using it and use the documentation.
Right. We could do all that stuff. Yeah, the retrieving the notebook documentation for a published function is something that pretty much works, but it hasn't really been through testing. It's undocumented. We need to make it more robust for things like those sub items, right?
Yeah, I understand, but I'm asking the following question. Like in our documentation structure right now, there is no place for the function repository in the in-product function documentation.
Right, it's not in the layout at all, right?
Right. We might want to review that. Also for the other repositories. I think that's a good question to ask users, because I don't see the use case right now, but maybe somebody does.
Yeah, sort of updating indices is a can of worms, but we can certainly talk about it.
I understand that. It's not obvious how you link the thing to this and, how you keep things in sync and so on, but it's a question. If people think it's important, then we should look at it. Let's see. Yeah, all right, let's go take a look here. Maybe needs subscripts. I'm perfectly happy saying should probably be. I don't think it needs to be just a statement. So
I think I started using that sort of terminology for a lot of these, and I just haven't updated all of them.
Okay, all right, fine. Okay. Now, what are we recommending for subscripts? In the tools section, are we giving them literal subscripts? Or are we allowing the $ notation or something?
In the tools thing, you'll create a subscript box, just like the palette for the templating palette. But the $, if you put in the $ and use template input, that works as well.
Maybe we should tell people that. Do we tell them that?
Is it underneath the more info button? I'm not sure.
We should check that.
I don't think we document it anywhere.
We should probably document it as a shortcut. And people who submit many of these will learn it. This description needs a period. Fine. Okay. Should we say avoid using new symbols for function names? Since I think it'll be somewhat obscure what global means.
Yeah. If they had it in a context of their own and they wanted to document it using that context,
that would be a horrible can of worms.
Yeah.
Let's just say new symbols.
Yeah, I think that makes the most sense.
Why don't we just say fix automatically?
Oh, I think that was a copy and paste mistake on my part.
Okay.
So the second notebook is just a dump of all of the text from all of the more info buttons and more.
Why doesn't selecting? I haven't a clue, but anyway. Oh boy, roll of text here.
We could spend the next 3 days going through this, but I think we've sent this to DQA as well, right?
Yeah, but that's okay. We'll look at it in just a moment here. So, okay, so Sandra is commenting that in 12 that we correctly have, if we take this blob, yeah, okay, so that's the right size at least. Okay, if we take that blob and we hover over that blob, why doesn't this work? Why isn't that working?
It says 12.1.
Yeah, what version are you on?
Oh, that's in 12.1.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So there.
So it gives a raft, and you click it, it goes to the web documentation.
I see. And that could, in principle, go to the, as could F1, go to local documentation if we had it.
Right. Yeah,
so we're
confident in our local documentation. We can decide whether to switch to.
Right, but I mean, in that case, we would have to have a structure somewhere on the, because I'm assuming that on the home page, what's true about that? The root guide page. Where does the function repository appear in the root guide page?
Yeah, right there.
That shouldn't say computational notebook archive. Just say notebook archive. So in principle, that could actually be, those could be internal documentation. All right. Okay. Okay, let's look at
right. We'll have to think about pre-building those things so that it doesn't have a lag.
Yeah, I understand.
It's a good bit of work, but we could consider.
I'm not sure how important it is, but it's for the future. By the way, this graying down is not real, right?
That's just you're on the test deployment, which has less content. So
yeah, it's real, but there's nothing that uses it.
On the production one, every category has content, so you don't see that.
Okay. And by the way, as we get more content, we need better organization.
Yep. Probably hierarchical, but we need to.
Well, we probably need guide pages. That's what we probably need. And that's going to be difficult because guide pages require, balancing and knowledge and things.
Right, more than just the listings that we have now.
Well, I think so. I mean, I think we need, I think they need to be put into subcategories there. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. And I don't know whether it's community maintainable, for example, the guide pages. I just think this is really hard to, because you don't know what's there. You really want to be able to browse this. I mean, it depends on how many submissions we get, how quickly. And, with guide pages, one of the issues is that as you get a bunch of new functions in a particular area, you may have to rebalance the guide page.
Yep.
But that's certainly where we would like to be. Right now we have 500 functions, right?
Yeah, that's about right.
We might be able to, this would take some work and development, but basically have guide pages follow the same pattern as resources where someone could submit an update and it would be reviewed. So we can put some work on our end, but also let users say, hey, these functions should be added. Check out this.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea. Yeah, it's a good idea. I mean,
we can kick that
kind
idea
of like
around.
but it's
see
kind of
what
like
it'll
a
do.
wiki, except that it is, it has preemptive review. I mean, the alternative would be to have something. Yeah, I think it kind of has to work that way. Okay. Let me see. Sorry, I'm just, we're back to, let's see, I think we have another. Yeah, we have another, actually, live stream meeting about geometric assertions coming up. That is at this time. Let me just take a look at what else you wanted me to look at. So you want me to look at this? I
think we've covered the highlights, and we just also provided a notebook with literally all of the text.
Okay, so my question, have you talked to Roger about whatever guidelines he has for function page writing?
I will check. I think we have. I'm not 100% if this is what he gave us or based on it, but I'll confirm that.
Yeah, please do. And also, Brian isn't here, is he? Van Vertler, you can ask him also for that, right? Whatever they have, now's the time to expose it. I think they have some training materials for people writing documentation, which might be highly relevant for this.
Okay.
Sander makes another good point, which is knitting between functions is tricky because changing links because they're previously submitted functions that might want to link to a new function. What do we do about that? I mean,
it's possible to submit an update to the function, and I think one of our hopes for a future update is to make it easier to update metadata without changing the function, and that, it's not fully formed at the moment, but that would be a good way to do.
Okay,
to
look,
change
in practice, these relations are almost always going to be two-way. So if somebody submits a new function that says it's related to 5 existing ones, we could automatically or just check real quick whether to make the opposite link.
Well, but why don't we get them to propose it? The only issue is
it's just
that these links
to write all the same things twice.
Well, then why don't we do this? Why don't we bring up one of these notifiers that asks if you want to do that? Right, on submission, if you are linking to a pre-existing function repository function, and I don't even know how you do that. How do you do that?
There's a related symbols or related functions
field. Yeah, but is it obvious that that can include a function repository function?
Yeah, that's the entire point. There's one called related symbols that's for system symbols, and one called related function or related resource objects. So it could be a data resource or a neural net resource.
I see.
Yeah. So we could, I guess we could have a checkbox that says also create backlinks or, something with that meaning.
Okay. Also submit requests for backlinks.
Right.
I mean, maybe that's something we can just do automatically anyway. Just every time, take a look and see if, any resource that's mentioned here, is it, the reviewers can take a look. Okay, there's something here. Is it worth adding these backlinks?
Okay, let me make a more concrete suggestion. Okay, the reviewer could do it, or it could get sent to the original author of the thing into which the backlinks are being inserted. Okay. And I mean, it's an interesting problem because it's not like, it would be lovely if the academic literature had forward references as well as backward references, but it does not. right? In other words, if you could look at a paper, and when you look at the bottom of that paper, it would say, oh, 2 years later, somebody did this. But you never have those links, right? But what we're proposing is basically to have those kinds of links. So what I'm suggesting is that what it should do is, if there is a backlink, send something to the original author saying, this is the proposed update to the links for this function. Do you approve? Now, the reason it's tricky is that in that default, it might add the new backlinks at the end, but you might not actually want the new backlinks at the end. Do you get what I'm saying?
Maybe backlinks like that can have their own section, and we can do that automatically.
Well, you mean...
We've never really considered ordering of these things, but it is important.
It is important.
Yeah.
Particularly when there start to be lots of them.
Right.
But I think that's a reasonable thing to do, to imagine a workflow where we are sending back to the original creator of the thing, do you approve this backlink? Yes, no, or they don't respond, in which case we have to deal with it.
Right. We can just spin up a web form that's just check each one that you agree with and hit submit.
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't solve the ordering problem, but
it doesn't solve the ordering problem, but it does solve the getting it in there in the first place.
Right.
All right. Well, sounds good. So, this needs to be ready for the release in not too long, right?
Yep. There's there's cloud side changes that QA hopefully is approving today or tomorrow, and there are things in this definition notebook that are awaiting those that will not work until those are live. So this client side changes will be going to testing as soon as those cloud side changes are out.
Excellent.
And we've also got a couple minor changes from the design meeting, so we should have that wrapped up and to QA very, very shortly.
And how soon can we move to get this, much better workflow in the function repository, in the data repository?
It's one of our next items.
If we make it top priority, I think we can get it done. I don't know. There's one trickier UX part when working with data than functions that we'll have to think about. If we come up with a solution to that. Well, the function has a symbol name attached to it that you can use when you're defining the examples, and then we automatically swap out the symbol name for the resource.
Well, I thought we were just calling it dollar data or something.
Yeah. That's the solution we have now, and nobody likes it. So we have to decide if we're sticking with that or not.
I think we can. I think we've got some patterns that will work better when we revisit it. I've got some ideas based on what we've done with function.
Okay. I mean, what do people say is wrong with the dollar data thing?
I don't know. Maybe if we communicated better, it would work better. But people don't understand it the first time. I've personally explained it to 20 different internal people that are submitting things. Because
fine, well, so it isn't well explained.
Maybe it's.
I think it's a communication problem because I don't think there's a fundamental problem with it. I think the people, I just don't think there's a fundamental problem. I think we should just assume it works that way, and try and get a nicer workflow for the whole submission, independent of that issue. Because I think that is a perfectly decent solution to that issue. And I think it's just a question of just stripping out a lot of stuff and simplifying and putting in these pre-flight notifiers, just like we've done for these. All right, I got to go to this geometric assertion meeting. Those who are on the live stream, if you're very welcome to join us there. It will be starting in a couple of minutes. And thanks to everybody, and talk to you all soon.
Thanks, everyone.